Hello everyone, Cold Bore Miracle here today on behalf of GunMade. If you like guns and want to learn more about them, as soon as you're done watching this video, head over to gunmade.com where you will find reviews on your favorite firearms and all kinds of information on where to get them. Today I'm taking a break from a little hunting here in the beautiful Rocky Mountains to talk to you about this unit right here. This is the BC-8 from Bear Creek Arsenal. This might look like another AR-10 or SR-25 type rifle. This one, however, is chambered in .30-06. It is also available in .270 and .300 Winchester Magnum if you really need some more power. The .30-06 is probably one of the most popular hunting cartridges in the country, so it only makes sense that it would end up eventually in America's favorite rifle platform. The BC-8 incorporates all of your favorite AR-15 features into a .30-06 rifle. You've got the interchangeability of parts, M-lock handguard, and so on, so that you can customize this rifle, which is obviously the American thing to do. The BC-8 uses Magpul furniture at the back. It has a custom magazine to fit the .30-06 cartridges. It uses a velocity trigger, which is really quite nice and a nice touch. Thank you, Bear Creek, for that. I also appreciate that they threaded the muzzle. It's 5/8 24, so that I can run a suppressor on the rifle when I want to. All of these features round out a pretty handy rifle, and it's chambered in .30-06, so what's not to like? This has been my first experience with a rifle from Bear Creek Arsenal, so I'm going to give you a little bit of the pros and cons that I've found with this rifle during the last couple of months that I've been shooting with it. First of all, if you're used to an SR-25 chambered in .308 or .65 Creedmoor, something like that, this is obviously a step up. A .30-06 is definitely a larger cartridge, but I was surprised that it didn't feel that much more. The recoil wasn't bad at all. I was actually anticipating more. I think that the weight of the rifle probably helped tame a little bit of that recoil, which I guess you could also call a little bit of a con, depending on what you're using this rifle for. I know if I was hiking around through these mountains, this probably wouldn't be the first rifle I grabbed just due to its size and weight, but I have carried heavier rifles around these mountains, so take that with a grain of salt. Other than the weight and the larger custom magazine here, there's not a lot of difference between this and a standard SR-25 type rifle. You will notice that is a side charging upper receiver on this, so there's a charging handle bolted to the side of the bolt carrier, which was something a little different than what I'm used to. I guess you could call that a pro and a con. It does give you a little bit more finesse if you need it when you're running the bolt back and forth. It does, however, which I found out up here in these mountains, make it hard to field disassemble the rifle. The charging handle prevents the bolt carrier from being slid out the back of the receiver. If you hinge open the rifle in the traditional fashion, you have to pull the screw out that holds on the charging handle in order to take the bolt carrier all the way out the back. Not a big deal, just something you should be aware of. I mentioned the velocity trigger. It felt fantastic and allowed me to shoot the rifle very well. It also has one of those little plastic accu wedges in the lower receiver to help keep the upper and lower tight together, which is an added little bonus that I thought was nice. I also mentioned the threaded muzzle, so you can change out this muzzle device if you don't like it and you want to put something else on there, which is fine. I personally prefer suppressors. I shot the rifle quite a bit with suppressors on it, and it seemed to work fantastic. Didn't affect the functionality of the rifle, and it ran flawless the whole time. The only downsides I've found with this rifle after shooting it for a couple months is probably, first of all, maybe the weight. And that, I say maybe because that depends on what you're doing. If you're going to pack it around these mountains, then the just over 11-pound weight might be a little too much for you. Then again, it's a .30-06, and an 11-pound .30-06 is really quite pleasant to shoot. So it depends on what you're doing, I suppose. This rifle is built for hunting, according to what Bear Creek Arsenal says, so keep that stuff in mind. I also noted that the magazine release was just a little stiffer than I'm used to. I think that is likely due to the magazine design. It's a big magazine. It's made from aluminum, so it probably has a little bit extra spring weight to keep that magazine from falling out, so that doesn't really surprise me a lot, and it's not a big deal. It's just a little bit more than I'm used to, so just so you're all aware. So as I mentioned, I've been shooting this rifle around these mountains here for the last couple of months. Really have quite enjoyed the rifle. I've been using a lot of ammunition from Hornady. mainly the Superformance 165 and the American Whitetail 150 grain ammunition. Everything I've fed this rifle, including some other stuff and some old hand loads I had laying around, all cycled perfectly through the rifle, never had any issues. Accuracy from the rifle was around inch, maybe a little more, just depends on who's shooting and how you're doing. But I think if I was to shoot maybe some match ammunition through the rifle, it might perform a little better still. When I did actually shoot the rifle on paper, I was actually kind of surprised because I had been shooting the rifle out through these canyons and such, and it felt like it was shooting better than MOA. So when I shot it on paper and saw that it was actually shooting around MOA and just over, I was kind of surprised because it felt like it had been shooting even better than that. So that said, I feel that the accuracy for this rifle is perfectly suitable for the average hunter. I had no problem shooting deer-sized targets out to 500-600 yards with this rifle. So use that information as you will. It almost feels like it has an extra action going on inside the rifle, though I couldn't tell where that sensation came from, but it shoots really quite nice. The recoil impulse is very familiar to an AR. It's softer than a 30-06, or softer than most 30-06s I've ever shot, which have been, you know, your traditional hunting rifles. No surprise there. But it's a very pleasant rifle to shoot. The velocity trigger definitely feels a lot better than your average, you know, mil-spec trigger. I like the slimmer handguard, and the M-LOK features on there allow you to put on or take off your favorite accessories as you wish. For all of my shooting, I've been shooting with this Primary Arms GLX 3-18 rifle scope. I found it to be a perfect match for this rifle. It gave me all the accuracy I needed to see what I was shooting at and spot the impacts as bullets got way out there. It's really quite nice. So that scope is an excellent match for this rifle. The little kid in me that likes big noises smiled every time this thing went off. And it's just a genuine pleasure to shoot. I couldn't find anything I disliked about the way it shot, particularly when suppressed. Made it even more pleasant, obviously, because it took away some of that racket and allowed you to shoot. I was shooting it without ear protection. Call me crazy, maybe I'm already deaf. I did notice while shooting the rifle suppressed, obviously it's going to increase the bolt carrier speed by increasing back pressure. That did cause a little bit of brass damage to the occasional brass, would get the case mouth bent in. Not a huge deal in my opinion. Maybe if you're a reloader, that might be something that concerns you. But shooting the rifle suppressed didn't cause anything different in its function other than the occasional dented case mouth and, like always, a little bit more dirty brass, which again is no surprise, and certainly not the fault of the rifle. It's just that's what happens when you shoot suppressed. The magazine design for the BC-8 is rather interesting. This uses two aluminum halves that go together and kind of slide up into a keyway, holding them together, and then the base plate slides on from the bottom. It's a very robust design. I feel like I could club somebody out with this thing and not even put a dent in it. It's quite thick in its design. So very nice magazine, and it holds the 5 rounds in there well, and I had zero issues cycling, which I would hope, obviously, since this magazine is built specifically for the rifle. Some people might think that a 20-inch barrel is a little short for a 30-06. I suppose that's an argument you could make. I personally prefer shorter barrels. Up here in these higher altitudes, we aren't affected as much with velocity loss as perhaps someone at a lower elevation. So I think the 20-inch barrel was a good compromise. I don't think there'd be anything wrong with a 22 either, but I think if you went any shorter than 20 on a 30-06, you'd probably be giving up more than you would like to, and you might as well just shoot a 308 at that point. As I mentioned, this is my first experience with any Bear Creek Arsenal rifles, so I guess take it for what that means. As far as scoring this rifle, let's go over a few high points. As far as reliability is concerned, I've had zero malfunctions with this rifle. There's probably somebody out there shaking their head or something like that, if the internet is to be believed. But in my experience, through the boxes of ammunition that I've shot through this rifle, I've had no malfunctions of any kind, whether suppressed or unsuppressed. Ergonomically, this rifle it's an AR-15. What's to complain about? And because it's an AR-15, if you don't like something, you can change it. If you want to change the buttstock, the grip, if you want to put down grips on the front so you can run it commando or something, be my guest. It's an AR. That's the beauty of the design. You can change it to fit your needs and the way you want to run your gun. When I opened the box for this rifle, it looked pretty much exactly how I expected it to. It has a parkerized finish, which is neither the greatest thing in the world, nor is it trash, I guess you could say. It looks good. All the machining and finishes all look uniform and nice. I mean, I couldn't really find anything in its appearance that I disliked. Other than very subjective things. I personally don't care for sloped forends on things like that. I don't like things tapered. It makes me think they look like a turd. But that's just me. Obviously, it's up to you if you like it. And if you don't, change it. I mean, it's an AR. You can customize it to however you want to. As far as value, if the internet is to be believed, Bear Creek Arsenal firearms are fairly inexpensive. Some people will complain one way or the other. There's plenty of people out there who like them, and there's plenty of people out there who don't. Me personally, like I said, this is my first experience with one. I haven't had any issues with this rifle, and I've had no reason to believe it's anything other than a fine little rifle. There are plenty of other 30-06 semi-automatic rifles out there. And as far as 30-06 semi-autos go, this one's kind of right down the middle as far as price and cost. There's definitely ones that cost a lot more, like the HCAR, the Noreen AR that runs 30-06 is also more than this one. There are cheaper options as well from other companies like Benelli or Browning with their BAR, obviously depending on which model you get. But this gun, I believe the MSRP is right around $1,800, which is not inexpensive, but for 30-06 semi-autos, it's also not horrendous. So you'll have to decide if that fits into your budget or not. Some people might say that 30-06 is a little bit overkill for an AR. I might even find myself in that camp. I think that you probably could do most everything you want to do with an AR type rifle with a 308 or a 6.5 Creedmoor. So not entirely sure if a 30-06 is warranted, but this is America, and Americans love having things the way they want them. And so for that purpose, if for nothing else, I think there's absolutely nothing wrong with a 30-06 AR. Would this rifle be at the top of my list for hunting rifles? Probably not. And not because I think there's anything particularly wrong with it. I just think that in my own personal firearm collection, I probably have some other guns that would fit into my hunting style better. With all that said, I have really enjoyed this rifle, even more than I thought I would. Obviously, I can only speak of the experiences I've had, and that's what we're doing here today. Really hope you guys have enjoyed watching the BC-8 with us today. If you have any questions, go ahead and drop us a comment below. Let us know what you would like to know about this rifle and its performance. I'll be happy to answer any questions. Make sure to like the video and subscribe to our channel so that you can get more videos and more content about this and many other products. And like I said before, as soon as you're done watching this, head over to gunmade.com. You can read the written review on this rifle and many other firearms and get all the information you would like to know there. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you next time. I'm going to take this guy back up here and see if I can go find an elk.